Kapolkin, Lopez Yapor playing Infect against Matti Quizma playing Dredge. We had a mulligan to 4 on that first table with the Kiln Fiend deck, and we'll be popping over there to check in on it, but we figured let's watch one that might be a little more competitive. Mulliganing to 4 is pretty rough. All right, we're ready, though. Round number 6, Finland versus Dominican Republic right now. Hello and welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup. I'm Marcel Sutcliffe in the booth with Simon Gertzen, and we are ready for round number 6. We've got the Dominican Republic versus Finland. We're going to start with Kapolkin Lopez Yapor. He's playing Infect and staying warm, as you can see. He's playing his opponent, Matti Quizma, is playing Dredge here in Modern, a deck that we've seen really spike in popularity recently, and it seems to be well positioned for Unified Modern.
It's actually the second most popular deck after Infect, so this is kind of the Unified Modern matchup, if you will.
All right, well, let's see how it goes here in the early stages. No turn 1 play here for Matti.
The scary turn is turn 2, discarding a bunch of dredge cards and maybe flooding the board with 10 or more power.
Both of these teams are sitting at 4-1 in our competition today. We started things off with limited for the first 3 rounds. The rest of the rounds today leading up to 7 are all Unified Modern, which we'll be playing tomorrow as well.
We can take a look at the Dredge player's hand, and you see Cathartic Reunion with a Stinkweed Imp and a Priced Amalgam. So only a single Dredge card. Well, there's even a Dark Blast, so 2 Dredge cards. And Quizma will try to fill his graveyard as fast as possible.
Yeah, so can you walk us through what's going to happen here, with this Cathartic Reunion and the Dredge cards and that kind of stuff?
You actually have an advantage discarding first and then drawing the cards, because it enables the Dredge mechanic. And Quizma can easily, depending on what he dredges, add 10, 15, 20 cards to his graveyard, and we'll see exactly that now.
Okay, so he's going to put Cathartic Reunion, discarding Prized Amalgam, and then his prime dredger, at least from this hand, Stinkweed Imp. Now he's using one of the draws that he's getting to dredge.
Yeah, he found a Golgari Gravetroll, so the chain continues, and there is now Cramiba. So actually the combo is already assembled, but we do get to see 6 more cards.
Because he found another Golgari Gravetroll. You can see that both of those are ending up in his hand, as well as the Stinkweed Imp. So those represent the 3 cards drawn off of that Cathartic Reunion. But this is the combo you were talking about, right? This is the Narcomoeba with the Prized Amalgams.
Yes, and there is now a Bloodcast in the graveyard, a Faithless Looting in the graveyard, so things will go out of hand even more.
Yeah, and you mentioned that they can have, 10 power here. He has to settle for 7, but not too bad for turn 2.
Yeah, in a sense, 7 is on the low end of the spectrum.
Wow, yeah, that is just explosive. Now, speaking of explosive, though, we know that the Infect deck from Kapolkin can certainly win out of nowhere as well, and it is going to take a few turns for Matti to actually get the job done here. So this is a key piece of the puzzle here for Kapolkin. He's got the unblockable Infect creature here. So we'll see if this Blighted Agent can get the job done here for Kapolkin. In the meantime, it looks like it was a Life from the Loam Dredge there.
Yeah, a slow dredge, not a...
Yeah, only 3.
Not a draw spell powered one. Conflagate is actually a key card here, as is Dark Blast in this matchup, of course.
And Conflagate in hand for Quizma here. And the shields are down. Blighted Agent, no untapped mana. We know he has to be aware of mutagenic growth, but that's about it here.
Yeah, and even trading for mutagenic growth here is not a bad deal, because it might be the card that would have killed you.
Yeah.
It will only have 2 green mana next turn, so you can do the math, and you might be surviving.
can tell you that the match that we were thinking about starting off with, which was Leo Lahonen playing Blue-Red Kiln Fiend against Jairo Balbuena with Bantel Drazi. There was a mulligan to 4 by Leo, and strategically, interestingly, waited to see the first few cards come from Jairo to kind of get an idea for what Jairo was playing, which is Bantel Drazi, and then conceded without playing a spell. So thereby, concealing the archetype that Leo is playing, but also getting information about the opponent on a match, or excuse me, on a game that they must have assumed that they had single-digit win percentage chance on, or maybe even less.
So now one player gets to sideboard with full information, and the other doesn't have all that much to work with. You can look at what the teammates are playing.
Yeah.
So you do know what they're not on, but that's probably not enough to help you with your sideboard.
Right, and especially given that Leo has chosen a relatively off-the-radar deck with Blue-Red Kiln Fiend, not a super popular choice here, so. Should be able to get a little surprise attack. Like I said, we'll be able to check in on that. Here's Dark Blast, though, from Matty. This is we've got a hand. That does not look like a judge hand. I think that's a teammate hand, perhaps. It is a judge hand. I was wrong.
There was actually a judge call because of a miss trigger on Bloodgast.
Okay. Which is a must.
Now it's there. Okay.
And then the Dark Blast actually does go ahead and take down the Blighted Agent. Things looking terrible for Kalpolikin here, and great for Matty Kuzma, who was able to really go off on turn 2 and 3, eliminating the threat and adding even 4 more power to the board after having attacked for 6.
Narcomoeba is a great blocker for Inkmoth Nexus.
So it's just going to stay home.
The only threat that Kuzma has to really be concerned with.
Interestingly, and Matty has also still left up lethal. I'm assuming that Kalpolikin is actually down to 11 at this point.
Yes.
Now that is not lethal anymore. Though Kalpolikin's still showing 17, so we'll see about that.
He's also not too concerned because there is nothing on the opponent's side that would have that threatens to be unblockable, and
right.
If you invest a spell and a mana like Apostle's Blessing or Distortion Strike, then it's just so hard to also deal 10 points of force.
Yeah, you just get choked on mana at some point. And there's Conflagrate to finish things off here. So Matty Kuzma takes down that first game in favor of Finland. To even things up, we know that Jairo Balbuena did win for his first game against Leo Lahonen, again, due to that mulligan situation. And, of course, Table A still going. That one is Naya Burn versus a Lantern Control.
Compete for your spot at the Magic Pro Tour and challenge the best players in the world. Pro Tour qualifier tournaments are available on Magic Online. For more information, visit mtgo.com. Up your game with Ultra Pro Magic the Gathering accessories. Find the best Magic art on card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and more. Visit ultrapro.com to learn more and find a retailer near you.
And welcome back to the feature match area here at the World Magic Cup. We're in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. And we've got Finland versus Dominican Republic down in the feature match here. We are now going to check out that blue-red Kiln Fiend deck in the hands of Leo Lahonen from Finland. He's playing against Jairo Balbuena of Dominican Republic on Bant Eldrazi. And we mentioned it at the beginning. Game 1, not really much of a game. Leo mulligan to 4, didn't play anything, got an idea for what Jairo was playing, and then said, I'm going to concede, let's go to game 2, with the knowledge of knowing that I'm going to get to sideboard against you, and you really aren't going to be able to sideboard against me very effectively. Looks like Leo's going to kick things off, though, the right way, getting aggressive, the Monastery Swiftspear.
The blue-red Kiln Fiend deck is very all-in-ish.
Okay.
You want to cast as many cheap spells as possible. Lots of Phyrexian mana in there. Temur Battle Rages, which are great on Kiln Fiend, great on Thing in the Ice. But also Monastery Swiftspear, as we've seen in Standard, can grow quite huge.
Leo's going to start things off with Gitaxian Probe. Is he going to like what he sees here or not so much?
I think he can be thrilled.
Thrilled with this.
This is a Cavern of Souls and a Ghost Quarter, so no temple or way to power out these Eldrazi's earlier than their mana cost.
Turn 3 Eldrazi Displacer on the draw. Leo's going to be pretty happy about that.
I think this is not a draw that really competes with Modern's power level.
Yeah,
this looks barely enough for Standard, to be fair.
Yeah, 3/3 for 3 go.
That's limited, right?
Yeah, it's
vanilla.
It's pretty good and limited. Even then.
No, and of course, once you know what you're facing, that keep looks a lot looser.
Yes.
Which of course you didn't know.
Jairo did not know. Well, let's see how much damage Leo can get in for here.
Only with a single creature it appears. Yeah, so he's going.
This is 5 damage aggressive already.
Is this lethal?
8? Is there a Temur Battle Rage here? 20! Remember, the Gitaxian Probe was this turn 2.
Am I correct? 2,
is that right?
5, 8, 9. It's 18.
It's 18, so that's going to put Jairo to 1?
And basically negate his land drop.
You know, you maybe were understated when you said this deck's a little bit all in. How about that?
Just a tiny bit all in.
Yeah, and that's really fun. Look at that smile from Leo, like just how we drew it up. Swung for 18 on turn 2. That's crazy.
I think he just told his teammates that karma.
That was for the mulligan before? All right.
Karma got back.
Let's head back to Kaupolic and Lopez Yafor versus Matty Quizma here. This is Dredge versus Infect. Man, you set that up beautifully too, Simon. I have to say, you said it tries to play as many cheap spells as possible, and it's very all in. And in that turn, he played 3 Phyrexian mana spells, and
I was getting
very all in.
I was getting a bit concerned because there was only a single creature in his starting hand, but when that creature deals 19 points of damage over 2 turns, that's sufficient.
Meanwhile, we get to see this Dredge deck go off again here. Now, here's a relatively full graveyard. I see a Narcomoeba there, though. It's not on the battlefield, and nothing really else going on here.
Yes, and that's because of Grafdigger's Cage. Grafdigger's Cage from the Infect side stops most of what Dredge is doing.
Okay.
At the same time, it is kind of a dangerous game you're playing because the graveyard stays full. So it's not like a ley line or a rest in peace that really shuts off everything.
So if at some point Matty finds an answer for the Grafdigger's Cage, then he could have an explosive turn.
Exactly.
Okay.
Engineered explosives in the graveyards could have done it. Nature's Claim is a card that Dredge often brings in.
Okay. I do see green and red here. Is Ancient Grudge a possibility? It doesn't work well with the cage, but is that a card that you would even
against Infect? Against Infect, no.
Just
against Affinity, of course, you'll take as many Ancient Grudges as you want.
Sure.
But especially the non-interaction with Grafdigger's Cage. That's a big,
it's just a deal breaker.
A big problem.
Yeah. You just the fact that you have to draw these cards does make it difficult, but Matty does have ways to sift through the library too. You know, we saw Faithless Looting at it in game 1. Cathartic Reunion still does, get you 3 cards.
And there are actually 3 Ancient Grudges and 4 Nature's Claim
in the board.
So I expect a large number of these Nature's Claims to be in Charisma's deck after sideboarding.
Okay.
Even if there's no cage, which is already good for you, you can still snack Inkmoth Nexus.
Inky, yeah.
So that's a big deal for a deck that's not so interactive. And yeah, Poor, I believe, just kept this hand on the strength of his sideboard card.
It so far looks like it's going to buy him a significant amount of time.
There was a Glistener Elf.
Well.
There was a Glistener Elf that must have died to maybe a Lightning Axe.
Okay. Yeah, I do see a Glistener Elf in the graveyard there as well.
I think there's also an Ancient Grudge in the graveyard. If you look closely, bottom right, which as I said, I didn't expect. I think Nature's Claim is the card you really want. But depending on your sideboarding plan, maybe there are other cards you don't even want to draw.
It actually looks like this game may go for a while. A pair of Lightning Axes and a Dark Blast in hand for Quizm means he can kind of work through some protection spells.
Yes, and
he drew a Prized Amalgam. Can he cast it?
It really depends. Not all of these dredge decks are built to produce blue mana, especially in the unified.
This is not either.
Especially in Unified Modern.
Oh, right, of course.
Because
you don't get to just snipe the one of Steam Vents or whatever it is.
Yeah, your teammates might not appreciate it if you if you're playing the Junt mana base, but then you also want the blue lands.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah. I like this though. Now we get very fair approach here. Stinkweed Imp, just cast it, go.
Yeah, Poor already has 2 Vines of Vastwood, so he knows that if he draws something, he can protect it. And the Penlaven could be huge to just always counter the first Dark Blast. This is a little bit like playing against Living End. When you somehow stop them from going off with a Chalice on 0.
And then they start casting Jungle Weavers.
And you can easily lose to that.
Oh, I've seen it so many times.
It doesn't feel good, but wait until Charisma reaches 5 mana and drops Grave Trolls.
Oh,
right?
And they're huge. Yeah, no, that happens. I've seen that many, many times that it's modern and somebody goes, Monstrous Carabid, go. And it's like they look at their hand and they've got a lightning bolt and something that can't block it profitably. And they just start getting chewed up. That could happen here, though. Stinkweed Imp does have a long way to go.
Yeah, that's not the main threat.
It's not the one.
And for Kisma, it's actually not all that interesting to dredge more cards because Narcomoeba won't get back. So he really has to see what is he looking for. Is he digging towards digging towards Nature's Claim? So should he just draw cards from the top of his library, or will cards like Life from the Loam generate enough of an advantage?
Yeah, it's interesting that he did decide that he had a Life from the Loam in hand as well. And now he's going to go ahead and fire one off to make sure he keeps hitting his land drops. He also did hit another Prized Amalgam. So if he can find an answer, his graveyard looks pretty decent. A couple of Prized Amalgams and a Narcomoeba. It is primed. He's just going to need to find one of those artifact removal spells. Now, if you're a Calpolican, you're just dying to find a threat here, right? I mean, you need something.
Yeah, and the problem is you have to assume that your first threat is not going to be enough.
Right, he just drew a Might of Old Krosa.
Usually in these spots you would want Inkmoth Nexus because at least it's safe from sorcery speed removal. In the face of Stinkweed Imp, I would personally prefer a Blighted Agent.
Right.
There you.
Life from the Loam continues to get dredged. All All right, and in comes the Stinkweed once again.
Just 12 more turns.
By the way, I do have an update from Table A. This is Laurie Pispa playing Lantern Control up against Naya Byrne from Fabio Portes. Lantern Control takes game 1. Apparently that Inventors Fair did some work, just gaining that 1 life a turn and, you know, slowly burying the burn deck in life gain.
Yeah, 2 copies of it in the Lantern deck. I think Kuzma is not really concerned about finding Nature's Claim or drawing Ancient Grudge.
We're really on the Grave Toll plan here.
He goes up to 5 lands, which tells me that he wants to dredge more Stinkweed Imps, and he knows he will find Grave Toll sooner or later.
Right, and I mean it's funny because, you know, when we think about dredge, players like you and I who have been playing for a while and who watch a lot of coverage, do a lot of coverage, you know, we just think of this, just abusive, you know, nonsense decks. But the whole point of it, right, is to give you a way to kind of generate a marginal downside while giving you an advantage. And it's like sometimes it actually does pop up.
That was the design idea. The original idea was, wouldn't it be cool if some creatures you could just draw instead of, like, just to replace your draw, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that putting cards in your graveyard is not a cost in the traditional sense, this is where things became a little bit awkward in multiple formats, actually.
Right, because they turned that, you know, air quotes cost into a massive benefit.
Yes. And then, of course, certain cards just get out of hand.
Yeah, it is funny to think of those from the design perspective as well, because you look at the more powerful ones, and you know, generally the more powerful they get, the more the dredge number is feeling like it's like, well, we're really going to punish you for getting this one back, but in fact, those are the ones that people want to play.
Oh, interesting. Somebody is pointing out the interaction between Dryad Arbor and Grafdigger's
Yes,
Cage.
you cannot do that.
Because it's a creature card, so we cannot enter front of that roof.
And you know the worst part is if you crack a fetch to do that, it's just like they may let him pick something different, but
yeah, this is an interesting situation because of the fact that it can't enter the battlefield.
Right.
So can you choose it?
Yeah, my understanding is that yes.
On Magic Online, I would guess you would click it and it just wouldn't.
And then nothing
appear.
happens. Yes, and and that is my understanding of the rule as well. And so the end result is I sacrifice my land. ... So we'll see. It looks like the judges are conferring. You can see behind there, and Calpola kind of puts his hand on his head like, yeah, oops.
Yeah, you're playing a sideboard card that you bring in against what your opponents are doing, and not because you can fetch a Dryad Arbor from your main deck.
Looks like we've got our coach over here as well, sitting by Matti. That is Tuomas Tomonen in this case.
I really like the strategy behind picking who is the coach for which round, who sits out, and so on.
Very interesting, yes.
I talked to Team Germany and to all 4 of them, of course, and they told me, you know, we knew from the beginning, Patrick Dickman and Mark Tobias, they are so experienced and so good, they will play every single round of this tournament. And that was just clear, you know. That also meant that the 2 others could start practicing together and really getting a feel for each other.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So
and they would end up flopping back and forth for different rounds, but also sitting next to each other
to satisfy the requirements of not having the same.
Yeah,
thing.
everybody does have to play.
And then I talked to Slovakia, and I thought maybe they do a similar thing because Ivan Floch and Matej Zadelkai are clearly amazing players.
Right.
But then I saw Ivan doing more of a captain role, where he was guiding and giving directions to 2 players very actively and checking on Mateja at the same time, which is something that not a lot of players can do while keeping their head in the game.
And I'm going to get an update from our sideline reporter Tim Willoughby, but it looks like the ruling is the Dryad Arbor gets to stay, and we'll find out the details on it, but I still see it on the battlefield. So, in meantime, getting back to the action here, Inkmoth Nexus there from Kalpolikan, he's found his threat.
What he really needs in this matchup is a way to make it unblockable with Distortion Strike. That would be the perfect way.
All right, it looks like Kalpolikan's decided just to let Dryad Arbor plus Pendelhaven take down one of the Stinkweed Imps to maybe slow things down a little bit as far as the onslaught in the air. It looks like, by the way, the ruling from the judge there was that it would have ended up being too complicated to rewind. You know, there's a threshold where the judges, if they can accurately rewind a game, reasonably they will do so. But if it ends up like there was a card that needed to be shuffled back in, and that exceeded the judges' threshold for that, so they decided that they couldn't rewind.
Which is within their powers.
Yes.
They have that exactly that. That's where they can decide: is this really a reasonable way to deal with the situation?
Mm-hmm. So let's see how things progress from this point. Grafdigger's Cage still wreaking havoc with the main game plan from Matti, but he has been able to apply pressure while Kalpolikan was waiting to find a threat, which he finally has.
The one thing you cannot do is to keep attacking into Stinkweed Imps.
That's right.
Because they will come back.
And you just burn a removal spell or a pump spell every turn, and then...
I assume you haven't played against this card in Limited.
Which one?
Stinkweed Imp?
No, I don't
maybe
think... no,
in a reprinted set?
Yeah, it was in a Modern Master set,
Yeah.
so actually I have played against
And in the original Ravnica, this is exactly what happened. People would attack their single threat into Stinkweed Imp, and you would just go, okay, here it is again.
See you next turn.
And of course, if you are allowed to draw Doomblades every turn, that's really good for you.
Yes. Yeah, especially here in Constructed where... All right, there's another Grafdigger's Cage. So it really is going to be on Matty to start finding his Grave Trolls or something like that to try to finish this game up.
He already found one. There's one in the graveyard.
Okay.
And with 7 mana, the mana advantage provided by Life from the Loan means that Lightning Axis and Dark Blasters will just be flying. I want to see this. I want to see a 10/10 Grave Troll.
I do too. We also have to think about Conflagrate as a possible card here. Can he just cast it at some point?
From the graveyard? No, but from hand. But it's really expensive.
What is the
it's
base
red
cost
XX.
on it? Red XX, right? Okay, so that's not going to be.
It's not a mana efficient burn spell.
Yeah, I guess there's a reason I've never seen anybody cast that in this deck, at least that way.
You can cast it for a single red, just to get it into the graveyard.
Just to pitch it. Yeah.
That's usually what happens. Yapor knows how he could win this game, and this is by...
All right, we've got the big Golgari Grave Troll here. Let's get a count.
It's more than 10, right?
Might be.
Easily.
You can take a look at the card here. It gets a counter for each creature card in your graveyard. It's a 12/12. Well, it's threatening to kill Kalpolikan in one hit.
Yeah. He has to block... Oh, there's the unblockability.
Oh.
So this...
Was that a Distortion Strike?
Yes, this just got interesting, but it might once again be a mana.
Let's see if he can actually put together a weird. Kalpolikan found Distortion Strike. That's +1/+0 and unblockable. That also has Rebound, which is why he didn't put it in the graveyard. Does he have enough to actually get in for the full amount and to protect his Inkmoth Nexus, though?
Infect can give +8 power for 2 mana. That's not the problem. But Charisma is sitting there with 3 instant speed answers.
But this is Might of Old Krosa. And like you said, it's really a mana issue here, right? Even with 2 copies of Vines of Vastwood in hand, it's just not... He can't deploy them all.
Infect is ultimately restricted by mana.
Yeah.
Okay, assuming you have an Infect creature. But it's not... You cannot beat all these pump spells usually, but what you can beat is the fact that... you don't have an arbitrary amount of mana.
Oh, now this is interesting. So Maddie decided to go for the Dark Blast first, which the Mutagenic Growth does actually blank, where the Lightning Axe, that wouldn't have been the case. Now, I believe he has 2 copies of Lightning Axe in his hand still, though.
That should be just barely enough. Do you want to know something cool?
Yeah.
When you respond with Might of Old Krosa to a Dark Blast, for example, it's still your main phase. So it doesn't matter that you cast it at instant speed. It only matters what phase it is.
Nice.
It's an important little detail that Infect players, of course, will know.
Yeah.
So
you can kind of force the issue on your main phase and make sure that you get the full amount. That's pretty
exactly.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing that the Might has already been put in the graveyard.
Right. It has not resolved yet. It went on the stack. And now we're going to see Lightning Axe, which is going to be met with a Vines of Vastwood. But then we're going to see another Lightning Axe, which should seal the deal here.
But also Vines of Vastwood is not enough. It's not lethal.
It's also not lethal.
That's another problem. If it was Blossoming Defenses, then it would actually be lethal. It would exactly be 8.
Yeah, and that is just not going to get the job done here. So the hand gets extended, and Maddie Kuzma takes this match 2-0 over Kalpolikan Lopez Yapor, and moves Finland one closer to being 5-1. Let's take a look at Jairo Balbuena, which is the Bant Eldrazi versus Blue-Red Kiln Fiend in the hands of Leo Lahonen match. Yeah, and that's our back table. You can see the cameras catching up to the players there. Leo kind of scoots over his coach. He's on the rolly chair.
Leo looks very confident with the deck he's playing.
He does.
Don't think he needs much help.
Wouldn't you be after that last game?
Well, would you be after the mulligan to 4?
I would feel a little shaky after the mulligan to 4 and wildly overconfident after that last game.
I think Leo just knows exactly what he got himself into. So
fair enough.
You win some, you lose some. I got a glimpse of Balbuena's hand, and now there is a Blessed Alliance in his hand, which is a sideboard card for Bant Eldrazi. That's, of course, huge against a Temur Battle Rage deck.
Okay. All right. Well, here's Gitaxian Probe to sort of get the lay of the land here from Leo. And this looks like another slow hand. That is an uncastable Blessed Alliance, if I'm seeing it correctly, as well as 3 Eldrazi that are miles away.
This is a mulligan to 6?
Yes.
But still basically uncastable hand.
Yes. This hand is nothing until turn 4 currently, unless a white mana is found.
Look at Lahonen's hand, though.
Well, we don't know yet. We're cycling through a bunch of these Gitaxian Probes.
Because he's lacking lands. He needs to find a land to even cast Sleight of Hand.
Okay, he has found a land. It was the last one, too. That got a little bit hot under the collar there for Leo Lahonen, but found it. Still no threat, though. Ooh, Eldrazi Temple off the top, though. That is all of a sudden going to make this into next turn.
Yeah, now it's
big Eldrazi.
Now it's turn 3 Thought-Knot Seer.
Yes.
Turn 4 Reality Smasher. Race you.
Wow, that was a huge draw from Jairo. Especially under 0 pressure right now, and with Leo at 14 from his own Gitaxian Probes.
Yeah, and Leo really, he had all these Gitaxian Probes, but he needed to find lands and a threat.
Yes. So both of these hands were pretty shaky.
Yeah, that seemed a bit optimistic to me.
You know, Gitaxian Probe does that.
Create optimism?
Yes. You just have 3 of those in your opener, and you're like, we're going to get there. Sometimes you don't. This is an interesting decision here now for Leo. I saw that he's got 2 lightning bolts in hand. Can fire them off at opponent, can kill the Thought-Knot Seer with both of them.
Ooh.
Can just let Jairo take one of them, but falling down to 13 here, even just the Thought-Knot Seer is going to do serious work, and Leo knows that Hyro's one land away from smashing some reality next turn as well. All right, double bolt.
Yeah, and double bolt will. You don't want to try to kill Reality Smasher with that. It's a bit unfortunate because you want most of your spells in your hand if you draw a thing in the ice. That's why you're usually hesitant to cast your spells.
Right. I mean, Hyro's going to take away Serum Visions here, and the hand is going to be Mutagenic Growth and a pair of Team or Battle Rages with no threat in sight and opponent at 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is super rough, especially if Hyro finds a land, you just have to think the game's over.
And if there's ever a white mana source for Barbuena, there's also the Blessed Alliance to take care of or to deal with.
I did draw a phone.
Yeah, with whatever is the recipient of all those pump spells. Yes, this is looking very, very rough for Finland. They are up a match in the round, though. Table A is going to game 3, by the way. That's Fabio Portes with Naya Byrne versus Lori Pispa with Lantern Control.
Yeah, and
the
I
Byrne deck taking game 2. All right, so it was not a land here, but it was close. Birds of Paradise, and also not the only play for the turn there.
Yeah, now the Band Eldrazi deck is slowly taking over. Lahon is really punished for his keep. I understand that you not want to have a repeat of game 1 when you know your deck is prone to mulliganing and not really functioning. But keeping a hand without lands and threats against a deck that only wants to survive the first few turns, I don't think you're giving yourself the best chances.
Well, Matter Reshaper is going to start piling on damage, and the next turn, assuming that bird survives as well, we're going to see realities getting smashed. And Leo already down to 13. It won't take much.
We've seen what Lahonen can do with a single Monastery Swiftspear.
Yes.
But his deck is not a deck that can just restock on cards.
Right.
There's no Ancestral Vision being suspended. Right. So ultimately, even if you draw perfectly, it's only going to be one spell a turn. Maybe a Serum Visions, but that's still not a high impact card.
Well, Monastery Swiftspear in hand here for Leo. And there's even a land off the top, which means if Hyro wants, he can just skip right over the Reality Smasher and go for the Drowner of Hope, which seems really great.
I like it. The tap ability is great.
Yes.
The 5/5 body is great, and you can even block with your Eldrazi Scions.
The Scions, yeah. Yeah, that tap ability, when you know your opponent has the hand that Leo has, which is 3 pump spells, just blanks all of them.
Yeah. I like delaying the haste creature for another turn.
Same.
There's no reason to play it here. It would be threatening, but still you can just threaten the same thing next turn.
Right.
I think you're just attacking for lethal, to be honest.
Yeah, that's going to put Leo down to 10. Assuming one of the Scions gets sacked, that's 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 anyway. That's down a Scion too. Upkeep, Hyro's just going to go ahead and make sure the Swiftspear does not turn sideways. Now another Swiftspear off the top, but it just doesn't seem like it's enough, especially because Hyro can just do that same thing again if he's worried, about some ridiculous combo finish. But the truth is, if Leo gets to go to combat with only 2 mana, you're not going from 18 to 0 off of 2 mana no matter what.
Well, form mutagenic growth.
But he knows. That's the problem.
Yes, if you also know what your opponent is holding.
Right.
Ah, that's a nice finishing touch.
What was the finishing touch?
The backup stubborn denial.
Stubborn denial. That's nice. All right, this is 13. That's lethal. Yes, and Leo just going to throw the cards on the table, which means that Dominican Republic is going to take this match, and we've got Lantern Control versus Naya Byrne to figure out who's going to win the round here between these two countries.
Go ahead. I mean, you don't tap your lands. But
Ah, okay.
see what's up.
But then
Yeah.
like
So, yeah, no, go do it. Just tap your lands. Do it.
All right, so let's jump in here and see what's going on. It looks like there's a Witchbane orb in play here, Simon, which is going to protect Lowry about from some of these burn spells. And in fact, looking at the hand from Fabio, you can see that he in fact has a Boros Charm and an Atarkus Command in hand.
But it doesn't protect you from everything.
No, it doesn't.
And we will probably see Eidolon trigger here if Pispa decides to cast that Codex Shredder.
Yeah, as far as the board goes, this is really interesting because Lowry doesn't really have much going on. Just a Codex Shredder.
Yeah, he
Everything
doesn't
else is
have,
mana in that orb.
he doesn't have Ensnaring Bridge, and he's also missing the Lantern to actually control draws.
Exactly. Yeah, and like you said, with no bridge, Lowry's down to 6. This actually doesn't look very good at all.
No, this is why I don't love the Lantern control deck. It's so hard to play, and then the edges you gain are still like really marginal in my experience. So also the world we live in, the modern world we live in, if you're playing against Burn and you can start with a Leyline, you can start with you have Hexproof in play, they can still kill you on turn 4.
Yes.
You know, this is...
That's supposed to be a trump card, right? Like,
yeah, but it's not.
It's just not.
It's not enough of a trump card in my experience.
I mean, it's doing good work against Fabio right now, but it's just not covering all the bases that Lowry needs to cover.
Yeah. Fabio doesn't have a green source, otherwise a Tarkus command would be huge. Lightning Bolt clearly will not target Pispa. And Boros Charm, for example, a creative use would be to give Double Strike to a creature and just deal some extra damage that way. And if I remember correctly, the Artakus command is not targeted, so that actually deals damage.
Take a look at it there. Deals 3 damage to each opponent.
Yeah, hexproof,
so not targeted.
Not a problem.
Yep. It looks like Lowry was thinking about using the Codex Shredder to get back Inventor's Fair.
But then he would have...
Unfortunately, would leave him short.
Yeah, then he would have had to cast another card.
Right.
Losing 2 again.
Yeah, and so just does nothing. Basically locked down under this Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Portes just had a very burn-heavy hand.
This could be the game right here, right?
Pispa doesn't know it yet, but Portes has the green source, so he could go for it and just try to deal the extra 4. But I kind of like passing here, because what is Lantern Control going to do with that one draw step?
They can't cast anything.
And once they take 2 from the Eidolon trigger, you know you got them.
Then you got them for sure anyway.
Yeah, Lantern Control is I find it highly interesting from a conceptual point of view, because it's not control like we've known control for 30 years. Not quite, but it's more of a prison deck.
Glint Nest Crane off the top, not what the doctor ordered here, and effectively 3 uncastable spells in hand.
Off the top of my head,
Finnish player, and I think they are going to be finished. Dominican Republic, yes, takes down the round. Wow, two matches to 1, and you can see how excited they are. They are 5-1 on day 1 here at the World Magic Cup, and yeah, Team Finland is left staring at the board state like, what could we have done?
Yeah, the Dominican Republic might not have to play the first round tomorrow, because they might very well be in the top 16 with this.
Right, especially with a win in the next round. So, yeah, great stuff down there. And as often happens here at the World Magic Cup, it all comes down to that one important match. Welcome back to the booth. That's Simon Gertz, and I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. We're here in Rotterdam bringing you coverage. This is Team Unified Modern. We're going to be playing this tomorrow as well. We've got another round to go today, but pretty cool stuff down in the feature match area.
Yeah, I love to cover Modern because the games are always intense. The matchups are mostly interesting, even though often one side is at the advantage. You can still see the avenues that the players have to walk, that they have to maneuver to actually get into a winning position.
That's right, yeah. And also, you know, it is funny because you do get a lot of variance in the matchups. I mean, we saw a couple of decks just kind of silently going by each other, you know.
Bogles against Scoria's Vengeance.
Yeah, against Scoria's Vengeance. But we also see some pretty significantly interactive matchups as well, where, you know, there's a lot of flurry in the early part of the game, and things kind of even out as it goes forward. Okay, that is going to do it for round 6 here from Rotterdam. But stay tuned with us. We'll be back after these messages.
Hello everyone, welcome back live to Rotterdam, live to the World Magic Cup. I'm your host Rich Hagan, welcoming you inside the News Desk studio. We have one round to go today, plus a little bit of housekeeping from round 6. So, remember 48 of 73 countries will advance to day 2, so that means that 4 and 3 or better is certainly through, but above that what you're playing for is a top 16 berth, which guarantees you a bye in the first round of tomorrow. Now, Germany have just beaten Team USA. That means Owen Turtenwald and co, they're through to day 2 already. They're at 4-2 now. Germany, by virtue of going to 5-1, they have a great chance of being one of the top 16. Almost certain, I would think. Italy are up to 4-2. Belgium, of course, the only undefeated team at 6-0. France will have to fight for their tournament lives at 3-3, but Wales keep on trucking. They defeated Greece in this round. So Greece 4-2 through to tomorrow. Wales 5-1, looking at a top 16 seed. As are Iceland. Einar August Baldvinsson and co. They defeated Uruguay this round, so Iceland are at 5-1. But who have we got out on the floor? Well, Brian David Marshall is out there, and he has got a very, very happy team at 5-1. BDM, who have you got?
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with Team Dominican Republic. Cal Lopez, you're the captain of the team. Tell me about how your day has been going so far, and introduce me to your teammates here.
Definitely. That's Jairo Balbuena, Fabio Portes, and Ricardo Sasso. So far we're 5-1. Everybody has done their part. Thank God. Everybody has lost just one match, which is really cool. And we only lost to Canada, which they had insane decks. So far, so good. Can't complain.
Now, you had a little bit of pro experience you were able to lean on when you were talking about modern decks. You mentioned a couple of names people might recognize. What was the preparation process for the modern format?
Well, I played a lot online, and Phil Napoli actually, he top-aided the deck. We exchanged a couple of ideas with the sideboard and how to actually just bring the unified modern, because that's the only thing that we have to reconsider, and that's about it. I'm not playing Dismembers right now because the Eldrazi deck is playing it. And that was the only thing that we actually changed in the main deck. But Phil.
And also, since Kao is living on the US and we are living on the Dominican Republic, we did our little play run with our decks configuration. At the end, we decided the best strategy for us is play what we are more comfortable with. So we brought Burn and Bandrazi with a couple of tweaks. A lot of people say you can't play Bandrazi with Infect because you have nobles and things like that, but at the end, Birds of Paradise, the best replacement ever.
You guys have been able to make it work. What's the reaction been like at home in the Dominican Republic as you guys just continually stay at the top of the standings?
It's really cool because his phone is dead because everybody's actually messaging us.
He's not ignoring you. His phone is dead, Mom.
My phone had 512 messages when I just ended the feature match.
How many were from Calcano?
Calcano posted on Facebook on my owner thread, and pretty much I haven't seen it yet, but probably maybe like 5 or 6. You never know. Calcano is always like, how you doing? How you doing? Where's the updates, buddy? So here you go. Here you go. One for you, 5-1, buddy.
Yeah, and we have a very tight community. We have a lot of support back home. I'm like the most lucky because I was 4th on the standard, but the other 3 couldn't make it, so I'm here with big shout outs to Jorge Garcia. He was the 5th, and he was like, maybe you should get ill, maybe broken knee or something, just so I can go. But at the end, we are here. I try to support the team on the limited format. It's my best format. It's the thing I practice. So far, so good.
So far, day 1 is going about as well as you can hope for in that kind of scenario. Anyone you guys want to say hello to back home at the local shop?
To Martin, to my team, Raimundo, Eddie, and Prince and Ferreras.
No. He's a shy guy. He's okay. He knows. You know, Mom. You know he's. You know.
Let me shout out somebody. Luis Miguel Garcia. I told you that I was going to shout out. Here we go.
Yeah.
There you go. Team Dominican Republic. They're feeling great. 1 round to go here on day 1. They're in great shape. Maybe looking at a bye tomorrow in the first round of day 2 action.
Thanks very much, BDM. Cannot emphasize enough how big a deal this last round is for the teams that could finish anywhere from maybe 10th through to round about 24th. Because if you can finish 16th, 15th, 14th, 13th, you get a bye tomorrow morning. If you finish 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, you play with no lives left because you lose round 1 tomorrow, you are done for the World Magic Cup. 32 teams are going to be in that shootout tomorrow morning. Make a date for it. It's going to be at 9 o'clock. We're going to get things going with our Team Unified Modern Shootout to start our Super Saturday here at the World Magic Cup. But that is for tomorrow. We've still got one round to go here. We're heading down the stretch of round number 6. It's time for a modern deck tech, because of all the players here, 73 teams, that's the best part of 290 players, so a little over 200